in the past years, youth in Canada have been on the forefront of many social issues and advocating for change in Canadian politics. In a year where Justin Trudeau himself said there's a high likelihood of a snap federal election, one group is trying to mobilize youth in a coalition of engaged voters, spreading awareness about voting, getting involved in local politics in their local ridings. Future Majority is that group. Laura Wittman is a volunteer representative of Future Majority. She's heading up the effort to recruit 2 volunteer co-directors for the Barrie riding. That role would be pretty much engaging youth, getting them involved in politics, preparing our riding's youth for a possible snap election. I spoke with her over Zoom. We talked about the possible election, what issues she thinks should be at the forefront, and a little bit about the role.
So my name's Laura Wittman. I use she, her pronouns. And this is kind of my second role with Future Majority. I started off as a lead fellow for the Oakville riding of the Green and Just Recovery campaign. So that was more running a campaign locally to gather politicians and young people together in a digital town hall. And I am now the regional director for the expansion team. So we're just trying to kind of get the word out there to these new ridings where we don't yet really have a presence, one of which is Barrie.
Okay, and how would you sum up what Future Majority stands for and what you want to see?
So Future Majority is a nonprofit, non-partisan organization whose mission is to empower young voters, particularly millennials and Gen Z, to realize their political power and to make politicians pay attention to the priorities of young people. So that's what we hope to see. We hope to empower young people in the Barrie region specifically to get an understanding of what their concerns are and to advocate on behalf of them.
And why is that important? Because I can see bringing young people into politics, informing them, but why is there a need for that in Canada?
I think that although we're a democracy, we don't always take advantage of it. And I think young people have a desire to understand politics more. There's not always access to understanding how it works, how to advocate for yourself, how to connect with politicians. So really, we're just trying to take advantage of the fact that this is a democracy. We can have an impact in touch with politicians and helping young people see their place in that and see their ability to connect with the system around them.
And in the Barrie area specifically, what impact do you think a more mobilized voting bloc of young people, what impact could that have on how elections happen going forward?
Hopefully it'll mean a bigger turnout of youth voters. That's definitely the focus now. Hopefully it will mean that young people recognize the impact of young voters and will understand how important it is to prioritize their concerns, which maybe haven't been as thoroughly covered in political campaigns as they could be. And hopefully it means that we see young people in that area feeling empowered. And I mean, advocacy and engagement just begets more advocacy and engagement. It'll really set up the next group of young people to continue being active voters and active civic participants.
What would you say to maybe like an 18-year-old who just turned voting age, but doesn't really feel like they have power? Like they see, especially in Barrie, like a very conservative run of politicians. They might feel like even if I wanted to vote, my vote wouldn't mean anything. What would you kind of say to that position?
I would say that every vote counts and that if you get involved, you'll be shocked at the impact that you can have. I guess the whole thought process behind Future Majority is that young people are powerful at engaging other young people. So if you can find your voice, if you can reach politicians and make it such that every party is addressing these concerns, no matter who you're voting for, it's having an impact.
And in the Barrie region, you're expanding to kind of mobilize more young voters around here, increase voter turnout, get people engaged. What would that look like specifically when people join up with Future Majority in this area?
Well, so what we're hoping to do with this position, the co-director role, is to engage more young people in the communities in the event that there might be a spring election. So hopefully that will mean helping to mobilize more young people, ensuring that people across the country and in the Barrie region are getting to the polls and are feeling the importance of their vote. In the case that there's not a spring election, that would mean organizing further campaigns like the Green and Just Majority campaign that I participated in, where we're collecting young people to get petitions signed, to reach out to their local politicians and get them in the same virtual space to discuss the issues that matter to them, and maybe get some commitments to action for those issues.
And in the young people that you're working with and coordinating with across Canada, are there any specific issues that you think are really timely or important this year, specifically that affect young people?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's interesting because over the course of the pandemic, we've realized that a lot of issues that exist they're still here and they're not new, but they're exacerbated. So some of those kind of universal priorities that we've discovered by having conversations with young people across the country are climate change, mental health support, affordable tuition, and racial justice. Those are definitely the key issues that we're really seeing affecting everybody across the country, and certainly which young people are more anxious about over the course of the past year.
Oh, okay. And then the role that you are advertising for, someone who fills that role, how would they go about kind of promoting change or promoting engagement and stuff? What would that process look like in Barrie?
Right. So the regional co-director would be reaching out, developing their volunteer management skills and communication skills so that they could learn to organize young people in their community, reach out, build new community partnerships, get an effective campaign across, and to encourage young people to vote and to understand kind of the political landscape in Barrie.
Okay, and in Barrie specifically, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of areas in Canada, a lot of Canadians are really underrepresented in our municipal politics, in our MPPs, and like federally as well, which applies, I guess, across Canada. How does Future Majority kind of address the challenge of representation, kind of making sure that all Canadians get a chance to see themselves represented in provincial and federal politics?
Yes, diversity and inclusion is a huge part of the Future Majority mindset, and that means looking to recruit people and get involved with organizations that look different from yourself. So when we're looking to include new volunteers or make new partnerships, we're not necessarily looking at what other organizations exist that are like us, but what other organizations exist that touch youth communities in any way. So that's a big part of reaching out. We've looked at different religious groups, different cultural groups to try and make those connections and let people from very diverse social groups across the region know that we want them, and we want to hear their voice. We want to be informed by their voice to understand what our priorities should be moving forward as an organization.
And now you, in your group, kind of work from the outside of the federal government, kind of promoting people to get involved. What do you think the federal government could be doing to better engage youth, make it more accessible for young people to get involved in the political process?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think part of it would be perhaps offering things like the digital town halls that we've been running. Those are a lot of work that we have to advocate to organize. If those were something that were maybe more readily accessible to young people, whether it be through involvement in schools or in the community, that would be great, because I think simply having access to politicians is one of the most important things, so that people can ask questions, understand who's representing them, and have kind of put a face to the demographic of young voters.
Oh, okay. And in the Barrie area specifically, I'm not sure if you're from the Barrie area.
I'm not.
But have you gotten some interest so far in these positions, or what's been
We have. Yeah, in fact, there's I do have an interview later today, which is really exciting. We've definitely gotten a few responses. I think because there's not a lot of groups doing this kind of political engagement in Barrie, I think that there is eagerness now that the opportunity has presented itself. So that's kind of why we want to get it out there, because I think people are interested, they're motivated, they just don't know what opportunities exist.
For sure, because with Georgian College and a lot of young people in Barrie who are maybe disproportionately affected by some of these issues, like paid sick days, that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Maybe a way for them to get in to actually make a difference in those areas, right?
Absolutely. And students are a huge group that we want to engage, because when affordable mental health and accessible accessible mental health care and affordable tuition were two of the biggest issues that were raised. So we know that that affects all students. So definitely we want to engage voters who are in post-secondary right now.
For sure. I think that's most of the questions I have. But just for you personally, like, why did you join Future Majority? Why is this work important to you?
It's important to me. So I started a campaign within the riding of Oakville, and I felt like young people in my community felt like they didn't have an outlet for political engagement. So it was when I saw the opportunity with Future Majority, not only to learn a bit more about and better navigate the political landscape in my riding, but to pass those skills on to other young people, and they can bring that back to their schools and their communities. For me, that was a really powerful thing. Because of course we're all different, we all will vote differently, but giving everyone the tools to make those informed choices and make those connections with their local politicians, for me, was a huge motivating factor.
And so it seemed almost that you and your group think the same thing could happen in Barrie, that there is an interest there, and maybe Future Majority could help bring that interest out, give people the tools to mobilize.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Is people have the passion and the desire, they just need the tools to feel empowered to act on it.
And then, so if people want to apply for this position or get involved even outside of the co-director role, what can they do now?
Yes, so if you go to www.futuremajority.ca, there's a Work With Us page, and it will show you all the opportunities that we have, including the regional co-director role, as well as some paid roles that we're offering right now and some other volunteer opportunities. So yeah, check out the website and you can see the posting in the description there.
Perfect. And well, I guess actually before I let you go, about the snap election that maybe coming down the road.
Right.
Canada's political landscape is in a pretty COVID-19 type of weird era right now. What issues do you think are going to be really key in that election? What issues are you looking out for? What do you think will decide that election? And I guess potential election.
I do think that a lot of the issues that we covered in the Green and Just Recovery campaign, the four that I mentioned, at least from young people's perspective, those are huge ones. And I do think the world has been watching climate change, racial justice, and definitely mental health support. Those have been really critical issues that have been exacerbated over the course of the last year. And affordable tuition, I think, with the economic issues that are happening right now and all the unique strains on people's lives, definitely, I think mental health care and affordable tuition are going to be on people's watch list for sure.
Perfect. Well, I'll let you get on with your morning, but thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and explain this.